The meeting originally scheduled for 4 p.m. began roughly sometime in the last 30 minutes. In case you did not understand what that actually read, because Annie didn't call him out, the WNBPA, the Players Union, was late to the mother effing meeting.
That's the executive director of the WNBA Players Association bragging about scheduling meetings, not about reaching a deal, not about making progress on player salaries, about the fact that they managed to schedule meetings and show up to them. And if that sounds absurd to you, wait until you hear what happened at the actual negotiation session.
The deadline was always going to be a little iffy, right? Sign the deal or we delay the season. Of course, a lot of you, including myself, are at the point where I'm like, lock the players out, for crying out loud. Yeah, I mean, especially number one. Why in the hell did this meeting get scheduled for 4 p.m. in the evening? Why did that happen? I don't understand. You had a deadline.
The WNBA set a deadline for January 14th to finalize their new collective bargaining agreement. Not a suggestion, a deadline. The kind where you show up at 7 in the morning, lock the doors, and don't leave until there's a deal on the table. That's how professional sports leagues handle billion-dollar negotiations when the future of the sport hangs in the balance. So what did the WNBA Players Association do? They scheduled their critical negotiation meeting for 4 p.m., 4 in the afternoon, on deadline day, as if they were squeezing in a casual coffee chat between yoga and dinner plans.
To stop the historic momentum of the first 2 years of the Caitlin Clark era would be absolute insanity. Absolutely. I retweeted this. I was like, this is becoming beyond baffling. But unfortunately, we have seen from the players, they don't get the, quote, economics of the situation.
Christine Brennan from USA Today put it perfectly before the meeting. This is the Caitlin Clark era. The league just experienced 2 years of unprecedented growth, historic television ratings, sold-out arenas, and mainstream media attention they've been chasing for decades. And the negotiating parties are treating the most important business decision in league history like it's an optional calendar event. To not get a deal done right now, to risk delaying or canceling the season, would be absolute insanity. Those are her words, not mine. But here's where it gets worse.
Where the WNBA and WNBPA just began what's being described a potentially pivotal meeting in CBA negotiations. And it shows all the people that showed up. Nike Agumake and Breonna Stewart, Liberty owners showed up. WNBA leadership showed up. And the attendees were trickling into the hotel just after 5 p.m. The meeting originally scheduled for 4 p.m. began roughly sometime in the last 30 minutes. In case you did not understand what that actually read, because Annie did.
The meeting was scheduled for 4 p.m. at the Langham Hotel. WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert showed up. League leadership showed up. Team owners showed up. They were there at 4 p.m., ready to negotiate. The Players Union, they strolled in sometime after 5 o'clock. The meeting that was supposed to start at 4 p.m. didn't actually begin until around 5:30. The Players Association was late to the most important negotiation meeting in league history. Late to their own deadline. And before you think I'm exaggerating, reporter Anika Constable was on site documenting the arrivals. She confirmed attendees were trickling into the hotel just after 5 p.m., and the meeting that was originally scheduled for 4 p.m. began roughly 30 minutes after that.
Marking the end of this marathon negotiating session. There was no deal. There are some comments that have come out of this. All right. WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, quote, "We're working towards a win-win deal, like we've been saying, a transformational deal for these players that balances out all things we've been trying to balance with continued investment by our owners. So we're working hard towards that, and we still have work to do. We've got to get it done soon."
The marathon session finally ended around 8:30 that evening. Commissioner Engelbert and the WNBA staff left the Langham with no deal in place, and when reporters asked what happened, The responses tell you everything you need to know about the disconnect between these two sides. Cathy Engelbert gave a professional response. She talked about working toward a win-win deal, a transformational agreement for the players that balances continued investment from the owners. She acknowledged they still have work to do and emphasized the urgency of getting it done soon. Standard commissioner speak, but at least it recognized the gravity of the situation. Then Terry Carmichael Jackson, the executive director of the Players Union, opened her mouth.
Now, WNBPA executive director Terry Carmichael Jackson. Quote, every meeting is a positive meeting. The fact that we scheduled meetings, that we offer dates to schedule meetings, that we actually get together, get in the room, I think that's positive. It's taking as long as it's taking, but that's what it needs to be. What did you even just say? We had a meeting about having a meeting disguised as another meeting. And you're giving yourself credit?
Every meeting is a positive meeting. The fact that we scheduled meetings, that we offer dates to schedule meetings, that we actually get together and get in the room, that's positive. It's taking as long as it's taking, but that's what it needs to be. Read that again. She's giving herself credit for scheduling meetings, for offering dates to have meetings, for physically getting in the same room. Those are her victories. Not progress on revenue sharing, not breakthroughs on salary structures, not compromise on travel conditions or maternity leave, or any of the actual issues. Just the monumental achievement of scheduling and attending meetings. This is the person negotiating on behalf of WNBA players during the most critical moment in league history, and she's celebrating the logistical accomplishment of coordinating calendars.
You guys are taking credit for having scheduled a meeting about the CBA negotiations that you should have already been having these meetings. And look, having meetings is not a win. It's simply part of the process. That's not a victory. That's what should be happening here by, listen, I'm about to make this one word into two words. Default. That should be happening by default. D-E-E, fault. You're bragging because you made it to scheduled meetings, which should have been happening forever now.
Here's what makes this particularly infuriating. The players have already turned down a 4 to 5 times salary increase. That's not speculation. That's the current offer on the table that they've rejected. The owners are proposing to quadruple or quintuple player salaries, and the response has been no. Now, I'm not saying players should accept whatever scraps get thrown at them. Negotiate for what you're worth. Fight for fair revenue sharing. Demand better working conditions. That's what unions are supposed to do. But show up on time. Take it seriously. Treat the biggest business opportunity in your sport's history with the urgency it deserves. And for the love of everything, don't go on camera after showing up an hour late and brag about how positive it is that you managed to schedule the meeting you just disrespected.
And I just say it out loud. I'm going to say it out loud. I don't give a rip. I get the sense the executive director of the Players Union is the laziest SOB ever. There, I said it. Just lazy. That's what I'm gathering. Is that if any work is done, that's considered a victory. Now getting a deal done, a logical deal done, and the season starting, that would be a victory. Taking a victory lap because y'all had to. She mentioned meeting 3 times in 1.5 sentences. Nothing to be said there. At least Cathy Engelbert gave us we're really trying to get it done. We're trying to square away, blah, 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 blah. The Players Union executive director, yeah, we had a meeting and it was positive, and I'm sure glad we had a scheduled meeting, and scheduled meetings are great. What? What? Adam Silver, lock the doors. I mean, what are we doing? And showed up late? Are you kidding me? How much do you really care about the CBA and playing the season? I will hiss your ass in front of the city hall at 9 a.m. in the morning on Monday if this group of players they've got involved with the CBA gives a because I'm starting to believe they don't. That they literally don't care. Hell, the president's already signed with Project B. So she gonna make at least $2 million right there. What does she care?
Let's talk about what's really happening here, because the unprofessionalism isn't just embarrassing. It's revealing a fundamental disconnect about what this negotiation actually means. The WNBA is riding the biggest wave of momentum in its 28-year history. Caitlin Clark's rookie season brought 3.2 million viewers to her debut game. The league averaged 1.4 million viewers across multiple nationally televised games. Attendance records shattered in city after city. Corporate sponsors who ignored the WNBA for decades suddenly wanted in. This wasn't incremental growth. This was a cultural breakthrough. And it's not just about Caitlin Clark, though her impact is undeniable. Angel Reese brought her own massive following. The rookie class of 2024 injected new energy and new fan bases into the league. Young fans who grew up watching these players in college are now WNBA fans. The product on the court is better than it's ever been. The storylines are compelling. The media coverage is extensive. This is the moment. This is when you capitalize. This is when you lock in a deal that reflects the league's new reality, while acknowledging there's still room to grow. This is when both sides should be working around the clock to make sure nothing derails the momentum. Instead, we get a 4 p.m. meeting that starts at 5:30, followed by a union executive bragging about the achievement of scheduling it. The lack of urgency is staggering, and it raises a legitimate question. Do the key players involved in these negotiations actually care if the season happens on time? Breanna Stewart already signed a deal with an overseas league that guarantees her at least $2 million. She's got a backup plan. If the WNBA season gets delayed or shortened, she's financially protected. So what's her incentive to push for a quick resolution? I'm not saying that's definitely what's happening, but when you show up late to deadline day negotiations and then celebrate the fact that you had a meeting, it sure looks like there's no real sense of urgency on the players' side. Meanwhile, the owners are sitting there with their checkbooks open, proposing to multiply salaries by 4 or 5 times, and they're getting treated like they're the problem. The commissioner is talking about transformational deals and continued investment, and the players' union executive is talking about how great it is that they scheduled some meetings. This is not how professional sports negotiations work. When the NBA had their lockout in 2011, both sides understood what was at stake. They negotiated aggressively, sometimes contentiously, but they showed up prepared, and they treated it like the billion-dollar business decision it was. Same with the NFL lockout in 2011. Same with MLB negotiations. You can disagree on terms without being unprofessional about the process. But this, showing up an hour late and then patting yourself on the back for scheduling the meeting, that's not negotiating. That's not even trying. That's treating the future of your league like an inconvenience that's interrupting your real plans. And here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud, but everyone's thinking: if the players' union executive is this lazy about the biggest negotiation of her career, what does that say about how seriously the players she represents are taking this? I don't mean every player. I'm sure there are players who are desperate for a deal, who understand the opportunity in front of them, who want to get this done, but the people at the negotiating table, the ones who are supposed to be fighting for them, they're showing up late and celebrating participation trophies. The contrast with Commissioner Engelbert is stark. She's talking about getting deals done, about balancing competing interests, about the urgency of finalizing terms. She sounds like someone who understands that every day without a deal is a day of momentum lost, a day of uncertainty for players and teams, a day closer to potentially delaying the season during the most important period in league history. The players' union sounds like they're negotiating a condo board dispute, not a collective bargaining agreement that will define the league for the next decade. And listen, I want the players to get paid. I want them to get fair revenue sharing. I want them to have charter charter flights and better maternity leave and all the things they're fighting for. Those are legitimate issues that deserve serious attention, but you can't fight for those things effectively if you're not even respecting the process enough to show up on time. This isn't about being anti-player or pro-owner. This is about basic professionalism. This is about recognizing the moment you're in and treating it with the seriousness it deserves. The WNBA has never had an opportunity like this. The cultural momentum, the media attention, the financial interest from sponsors and broadcasters, this is what the league has been building toward for decades, and the people negotiating on behalf of the players are showing up late and bragging about scheduling meetings. If they blow this, if they let this opportunity slip away because they couldn't be bothered to treat it with urgency, the blame falls squarely on the Players Association leadership, not on the players themselves, many of whom probably have no idea how their representatives are handling these negotiations, but on the people in that room who showed up an hour late and thought that was acceptable. Commissioner Engelbert said they need to get it done soon. She's right. But soon requires both sides to act like this matters, and right now, only one side seems to understand that. So where does this go from here? The deadline passed with no deal. The season is supposed to start May 8th. Training camps need to open. Rosters need to be finalized. International players need to arrange their travel. Broadcast schedules need to be confirmed. Every day without a deal creates more complications, more uncertainty, more risk that something goes wrong. The owners have made their offer, 4 to 5 times current salaries. Transformational money, in the commissioner's words. The players have rejected it. That's their right. But at some point, you have to counter with something realistic. You have to negotiate in good faith. You have to show up on time and treat the process with respect. Because if you don't, if you keep celebrating the achievement of scheduling meetings while turning down massive salary increases, people are going to start asking if you actually want a deal at all. And once that perception takes hold, once fans and media start questioning whether the Players Association is negotiating in good faith, the whole thing falls apart. The WNBA is at a crossroads. One path leads to a historic deal that reflects the league's new reality, sets players up for unprecedented earnings, and capitalizes on the Caitlin Clark-era momentum. The other path leads to delays, lockouts, canceled games, and squandered opportunity. Right now, based on what we saw on deadline day, it's not clear which path they're choosing. But showing up an hour late and bragging about scheduling meetings isn't how you get to the first one.